We have an urgent video to make. But first, hit that subscribe button.
Yes, please join us for all things parenting.
And an epic journey ahead.
We shall see.
You know what I was thinking that was funny today?
Funny, like hysterically makes you laugh, or funny,
No.
like ironic?
Yeah, I guess ironic. I don't know. But thinking back, like before we had our surprise pregnancy with Eloise, I was still like totally on board with all 4 embryos.
I know.
It was just like the whole surprise pregnancy that really, Iris is nice.
Oh, she made it.
That really just like threw me for a loop.
It threw me for a loop too.
So if you're probably not new around here, but if you are, we literally just today received news of our genetic testing results. We have 2 frozen embryos.
Should we back up further?
Sure. Go ahead.
Do you want to? Or do you think it's worthwhile?
Sure.
Reader's Digest version.
We struggled with infertility. We did IVF, got 4 embryos, which were all frozen. Transferred 2, had twins, a boy and a girl, Baron and Lyndall. And then, surprise! After our reproductive endocrinologist said, yeah, you'll get pregnant once in 10 years. We got pregnant. We actually got pregnant right after Rachel was on birth control. She stopped birth control because we were going to get ready to do another IVF or another transfer of an embryo, a frozen embryo. Got pregnant naturally. And so that just really threw a wrench in our plans.
It did. And they were all very close in age. Closer in age than we would have planned, arguably. Our kids, currently.
Well, there's no arguably about it.
No.
Definitely.
Definitely closer in age than we would have planned.
By about a year and a half.
Smells really skunky. No, it doesn't. I don't know
Is
what
it my breath?
Maybe. No, it's not your breath.
That was weird.
I don't know why.
You get to witness that here, folks.
Yeah, we wear it all on our sleeve, pretty much. Yeah, it did throw a wrench in the plans.
Wait, so do we even say? So today...
Well, then we have our 2 frozen embryos.
And we decided to go ahead and genetically test.
Because, if you've been following along, you already know this, but moving forward, we don't know what to do with those 2 embryos because Brad feels totally content, done. We have the kids that we are meant to have, and we do not need to go back for those frozen embryos. I'm putting words in your mouth. Is that accurate?
Yeah, by getting pregnant naturally, it just like really solidified my thoughts as, okay, we're done as a family. Yeah.
And for a while, I kind of agreed. Mainly while I was pregnant with Eloise, because it was a very difficult pregnancy for me. And during it, I had to tell myself that this is my last pregnancy to get through it. And so I think it was like during that pregnancy that I said, can we be done? Like, can this be it? Is this our last kid? And we both kind of agreed at that point that we needed to be done.
It was a hard time to be pregnant. Having twins that were 12, 15 months old.
You're preaching. It was hard. And I don't want to like sing a sad story here. A lot of people do IVF and aren't successful, and I'm very grateful for what we have, but it was not the easiest time in my life personally, no. And also I struggled with my mental health postpartum. I struggled with my mental health during pregnancy, postpartum again. It was just a lot. And so we didn't know how we were gonna proceed. Long story short, we have these 2 frozen embryos, and it made sense to us, and we called our reproductive endocrinologist and asked his opinion as well, and he agreed that it made sense to get them genetically tested. Here, Iris. We should flash back to
We also have 2 cats.
We should flash back to our very first video on YouTube where Iris is in our debut. And it was a video a lot like this, where we were kind of talking about the IVF process.
She's a bit of a camera hog.
So therein starts the process of getting our embryos genetically tested. And we found out the results of that, I think, a little sooner than we both anticipated.
Yeah. They said it would be 2 to 3 weeks. It was like 1 week.
We had like kids screaming in the background. I had a kid on my hip, and I answered the phone on my watch. I had the phone call coming in, and I saw that it was an 843 number, and it was kind of on my radar that this might be a phone call that we're getting in the next few weeks. So of course I answer it, and it's our reproductive endocrinologist, Dr. Slowey. Like, we're gonna get billed for this conversation that we had. We're gonna get a bill in the mail to pay for a conversation we had on my watch while I was holding a baby. And he even said, "Is this a good time?" Sounds like you have your hands full.
We have three and younger, or
Yes.
3 and under.
3 and under.
There's never a good time.
No.
Unless they're in bed. Hence this channel. We get to talk
It's
it out.
my beer. Smell it.
Totally smells like marijuana. What is it?
A stout.
Is it a 420 stout?
Mm-hmm.
Ah, that's funny.
Hey, this is the beer that I had at the bar when we went to Kentucky to pick up our van. Remember that?
Yeah, I do. Totally. So we got the news today
We did.
that we have 2 genetically viable
Chromosomally normal.
embryos. Should we tell them the gender, or should we wait?
I don't know. We know the genders.
That's a whole nother video because
Yeah.
there's a lot to.
We don't even know who we're gonna tell. If we're gonna tell, we don't know. But
The genders.
that was kind of a significant piece of information. So we're on the phone. Dr. Slowey says, both of your embryos are chromosomally normal. That's like, it does not, at this point now, it does not matter what the grading of the embryo is. They're graded from like 5AA to 3
BB.
BB is like the best to the worst. And I'm not even sure how that all works. But these 2 embryos are low. They're like both 3 BBs or 3 ABs or something.
Right.
They're both like, if you're looking at the grading of the embryo, not good. And that's on day 6. They let them grow to 6 days, which usually it's 5 days. There's a lot of ins and outs of the lingo that comes with genetic testing and embryos and all that. So I didn't have high hopes for both of them being normal. And a normal 3BB is as successful as a normal 5AA.
So it's like, why do they even grade them?
I don't know.
It should be, are we going to freeze it? Yes or no?
Yeah, it should be very like black and white.
Yeah.
I don't know why they grade them. Maybe, like Dr. Slowey even said, it's just so I have a mind's eye view of like what that embryo should look like. But
Yeah.
what does that matter?
Exactly. Yes or no? Whatever.
Two normal embryos. Let me cheers you to that.
Cheers, honey. And we know the genders. So like after the phone call, Rachel's like, well, what are we gonna do? And the kids are screaming and running around and demanding our attention, so we can't even have like a civilized conversation.
It was a bit interrupted.
But, I mean, I said, well, yeah, we have to give them the best shot that we can.
That is not how it went down. That is not how it went down.
I know,
at
but
all.
for the Cliff Notes version of
No, we started out. Well, first of all, on the phone, Dr. Slowey's like, do you want to know the genders? And we're both like, I did not expect. First of all,
I didn't even think about it.
We weren't even expecting the phone call to happen. Second of all, I did not expect on the phone call to be asked if we want to know the genders. And we hesitated, and he's like, well, just let us know. Let us know if you want to know. And I'm like, we looked at each other and we both agreed. We're like, yeah, tell us.
Mm-hmm.
So he told us the genders. And then said that it has everything to do with you. So if we disagree with those results, I can talk to him. So we end that conversation, and he said, just let us know what you want us to do. And we're like, all right. Then we almost verbatim had the same conversation that we've had 1,000 times.
Our twins are.
Right on cue. We had the same conversation. We had the whole...
But the difference was before, I would always then end the conversation with, well, let's talk again after we get our results from the genetic testing.
Right. And he tried to do that again. You did. You said let's
I still want to table the conversation for 6 months because we need to decide if we want to transfer 1 or 2.
Right. Not table the conversation about whether or not we're doing this, but
no.
I mean,
we're doing it. We're gonna have 2 more.
Oh my gosh.
But the next decision is gonna be
1 or 2.
Right. Which we went with twins the first time, so.
I want it to be very clear that, like, I don't want this to happen unless we're both on board. So this whole thing has been weighing heavily on me because I feel like I'm waiting for...
Hold on, we got a kid. Oh.
Hey, what about me? I hope so.
They said, we need to give you guys a hug.
Can I kiss?
Value. I'll give myself a hug. Okay. Give myself.
Okay, go be. Let's get hug. I think before the kids were coming out of their bedroom, I was talking about how there's not a world where I like coerce you into this.
Oh yeah, no.
I think
that's
that
only something that these haters made up on YouTube. You don't need to justify anything.
I feel like I do need to justify that.
No, that's
Okay.
ridiculous.
Okay. There isn't a world where I can coerce him into children if he doesn't want them. So the entire time, I was hoping that we would have a scenario that Brad would be on board with transferring what was viable. So that was like my prayer the whole time, and that's what I asked my friends to pray for, is that like the results will be what is meant to be for our family, and that both of us will be on the same page to move forward with that. And so if that means no embryos, that means no embryos. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like if there's not ever a chance that you would come around on more children, then I needed that door closed for myself. That like we have no more embryos and it's over, you know?
So you wouldn't be interested in doing IVF again?
Heck no. Heck no.
Right.
Would you? The answer is no.
No.
That was a silly question. Yeah, so it was weird because I felt melancholy when we first found out that there's 2 embryos, because I felt like there is no world where Brad's gonna come around on 2 more children. And so I just knew there's gonna be heartbreak here. I knew there would be heartbreak because I knew that there would be no chance that you would come around on that. Moments later.
You don't feel like I've been coming around?
Not whatsoever.
Really?
None.
Even though like I've softened my position over the past, say, month and a half? 2
From
months.
99 to like 98% no.
Well, and then I said 50-50.
I know, but then right after that you said 98 or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just know. I did not think that you were softening your position whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I also felt like if...
Well, I mean, the whole time I've just asked for like more time.
Yes, that's true.
So, I guess our big...
And you said, and you would say, I don't know if I'm ever going to be ready.
Right.
You would
Well,
say those
I didn't.
words.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
For sure.
So it was just like...
A source of tension for our relationship.
For sure.
Rachel's personality, it's like, you always have to, like, know the next step. Like, there can't be any, like, unknown for you. Don't you feel like that?
I do feel like that.
Right. And mine's kind of mine's kind of the opposite.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to know what's coming. And I also am very type A, so I like to...
But you still don't know what's coming. Are we transferring 1 or 2?
You're exactly right. And will those take? So the statistics on a genetically normal embryo are 75 to 80% chance of them taking. So when you take 2 of those into account, that's 2 of 4 where 1 of the 4 would not take. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
But
so,
I feel like
and
we've beaten all odds.
we have. So when's the other shoe gonna drop? It's kind
Never.
of how. Okay.
Never.
I know. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. I think where the conversation sort of broke, and it was like same rhetoric that we've always had, where before we started IVF, we both agreed that like any embryo that we had, we would transfer, because we can't imagine any other scenario for that embryo.
Which honestly, I don't even remember having that conversation.
We had it on camera.
I'm sure we did.
Like there's got to be a video somewhere where we can pull that up.
Right.
So we had that conversation, and then in that conversation, if you are doing IVF or if you know anybody who's doing IVF, needs to happen beforehand and like get it in writing, because things change.
Well, especially with guys, because I don't really feel like a guy really thinks through, you know, you're just trying to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
like you're not thinking through like, okay, well, yeah, if we do IVF, then yeah, we'll get a couple of embryos and we'll have some kids. You don't think like, well, shoot, what if we have 7 embryos? Like, what are we gonna do?
Exactly.
You know, it's not.
You don't think
yeah.
about that.
And you're just so focused on having one baby that any more embryos than one is just like icing on the cake.
You're hoping for the most possible embryos. I remember rooting for every last
Exactly.
one of our embryos.
And so you don't even think about
I know.
what you're going to do with those rest of the embryos.
I know. So what keeps coming up in this recurring conversation that we have had the last year on whether or not we're going to have more kids is, well, we already decided our fate of our embryos before we even transferred them, or before we transferred 2 or whatever. Like before we even had embryos, really. And then that switched when we had a natural pregnancy. And to me, it's like the reason behind why we made the decision about the embryos that we did has nothing to do with the fact that we had a natural pregnancy. So that should, like, the argument for those embryos should remain. And so that's where it's like been a source of tension, because you feel like life circumstances have changed, and if we're looking at our family and not even necessarily from a what's the word I'm looking for? Selfish standpoint. Like you're like explain your part where you're like, this isn't actually selfish that I don't want more kids.
Well, I just feel like I could be a better father to our 3 children that we have. If we don't have any more kids, we'll have more money to spend on them. You know, we don't have to get another vehicle. It's just all the logistics. Yeah, so there's a lot to not having 2 more children.
Our house.
Yeah, I mean, what are we gonna do with our house? We only have a 3-bedroom house.
Right.
Yeah, so.
And all of that makes sense to me. It's just really, I mean, I totally see his side of it, where we already feel currently spread thin with our 3 kids, and I'm just imagining our lives in a year or 2, because realistically that's the timeline we would be looking at. It's a couple of years down the road, and things are just gonna look completely different to us. Definitely, without a doubt, the first couple of years are the most hands-on, and we have 3 kids in the first couple of years of their lives. So I don't know, it's just been a really interesting conversation. So then the point where it broke was that how come the answer is no until you change your mind, and not yes until I change my mind? Like, why is all of a sudden the decision yours unless we come to an agreement otherwise? And even though that had absolutely nothing to do with the reason you came around. Right. Like in his, you said you've been coming around for a while, which I did not know. So.
Well, I mean, like the fact that I've been coming around for a while.
Right.
You know, just the twins being more self-sufficient, and Eloise being really good with independent playtime. And I'm going back to work full time. So yeah, all those things. And like kind of thinking through things, it's like, so even if we do have 2 more kids, like our RV is still big enough that we'll keep it. And our house, we could probably figure out a way to still live here, even with 5 kids, that'll be interesting to see if we do.
It will be interesting.
And I think we should get a live-in nanny.
Okay.
So if you could be a live-in nanny,
send us your resume.
But I knew this would happen. I knew that, as the kids get older and
right,
like more self-sufficient, then I would come around eventually.
I didn't. I just didn't.
I know. I didn't really lead it.
He asked me like if I was surprised that all of a sudden he switched gears, and yes, the answer is yes. He gave me no inkling that he was coming around at all, because I think you were afraid to, if you did ultimately decide no.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't want to give you any hope and be like, just kidding.
I don't want any more. Yeah, I feel like it's a topic that's not discussed enough.
No, we need to reach out to like Drew Barrymore or somebody that could put it on like a national stage, that this conversation needs to be had.
And it's hard. And the conversation that you have before you're married about like how many kids do you see yourself having has zero to do with how many kids you will eventually have. So like having the idea in your mind going into a relationship that you may have a disagreement on something as huge as that.
Yeah.
Or
it could cause a divorce for sure.
It definitely could.
100%.
Or if you end up having to do IVF and you fundamentally disagree on like the viability of an embryo, which I feel like everybody has a different opinion on, you need to decide. I don't know how, but you need to decide who's gonna win in that scenario. And I hate the word win because nobody wins. It's definitely something I didn't foresee us. Like, that has been the most trying thing on our marriage thus far. In 7 years, that's easily been the most trying thing on our marriage, is like the conversation about whether or not we will have more kids.
Really? You think that it's like tougher than like...
More so than that.
I mean, just like having multiples, having twins, just like raising them and like...
No doubt that's hard. No doubt. But something as visceral as like whether or not a woman feels like she needs to have more kids or not, which is not really something a female can control, like the desire to have more kids, that's not something that a female can just shut down. And that's been evident by a lot of you guys who have commented and said, I wanted more kids, my husband didn't, we ended up not having more kids, and I feel like I've never been able to lose that thought.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people have said that.
Right. So I just don't feel like that's something that, I feel like that's a lifelong thing, is what I'm trying to say. Whereas raising kids at a young age passes. This got very, very deep.
She's eating the goldfish. If we have 2 more, say we transfer 2 embryos in 2 years, then we'll have 5 kids in college almost at the exact same time. Good thing they all have college funds.
Right. I mean, we have college funds, which is more than a lot of kids can say.
But then how about weddings?
Weddings.
Cars.
I feel like weddings are going to be completely different by then. Think about how different weddings are from when our parents got married. My parents got married in a church and then went downstairs to the basement to have a reception with those little mints that are real soft. You know, you can chew them and they're real soft.
I do like those.
They had those and some nuts and punch. And then like went and partied with their friends for the reception.
Yeah, and now people are spending $50,000 on weddings.
I know. We can just tell them like, this is our budget for a wedding. We don't...
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. We can control. There's some control over that. You do not have to spend $50,000 at a wedding.
Well, by the time they get married, it's going to be $100,000.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't have to be that expensive.
All right. Well, anyway, we have lots
to discuss here.
We have lots of savings to do.
Oh, yes, we do.
All right. Well,
I can't believe they're both viable.
So hit that subscribe button. We'll see.
Thanks for sticking around for this entire video because it's probably close to 30 minutes.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see you later.
See ya.